Welcome back, everyone, to The Deep Dive. You know, something that's been on my mind is this whole idea of, like, you know, how much emphasis there is these days on, like, pleasure and instant gratification and material wealth.
Right.
Especially, like, for younger generations. And we've got this really interesting article here called The Influence of Social Media on Younger Generations.
Okay.
And it really, like, digs deep into what the potential consequences could be for, you know, not just, society, but also, like, spiritually. It's like, you know, could chasing pleasure, like, 24/7 actually lead to some, like, you know, big problems down the road? What are the possible long-term consequences, not just, you know, for younger people, but for all of us? I really want to, like, you know, unpack this with you.
Yeah, these are definitely some important questions to consider. You know, it's so easy to get caught up in wanting things right now, like, you know, that instant gratification. But it's you know, just as important to understand the potential downsides as well.
Totally. And the article really points to social media as a big, huge factor, I guess, in promoting this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, we're, like, bombarded all the time with these images of people living, like, what looks like, you know,
The dream life.
Yeah, like the dream life, the fancy cars and the perfect bodies and the endless parties. And it's easy to see how that could be appealing, right?
Oh, for sure.
Especially, I think, for younger folks who are maybe, you know, still trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
But, like, what is it, like, psychologically that's driving this intense need for instant gratification? Like, what's going on in our brains?
It is fascinating how our brains are kind of wired for pleasure.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we're just naturally drawn to things that make us feel good, and that includes, you know, that rush of dopamine we get from instant gratification. And social media, you know, it's basically become, like, you know, a master at exploiting this.
Right.
You know, think about the algorithms that keep feeding you the content that you're already, like, you know, hooked on, or, you know, those notifications that are, like, specifically designed to like pull you back in. You know, it's like a carefully engineered system for keeping us, you know, addicted to that quick hit of pleasure.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you're scrolling through your feed and you get, you know, a bunch of likes or comments.
Right.
It's you get a little rush, right?
A little dopamine hit.
But the article, you know, it really argues that this,
you know, that instant gratification, it fades so quickly, and it leaves you, you know, wanting more, and it leads to this you know, endless cycle of seeking the next pleasurable thing. But you never truly feel satisfied.
Right.
And what's more, you know, this constant need for instant gratification, it can actually make us less able to cope.
Oh, interesting.
With the challenges and disappointments that are, you know, a normal part of life.
Right. It's almost like we're becoming, like, addicted to feeling good.
Yeah.
And, like, with, you know, any addiction, there can be some pretty serious consequences if we don't recognize it, right?
Right.
And I'm also thinking about how this ties into our relationships. Like, you know, if you're always looking for the next exciting thing, the next the next big rush.
Yeah.
How does that affect your ability to, like, build real, like, lasting connections with people?
That's a really crucial point that the article dives into.
Okay.
You know, this constant pursuit of pleasure, especially in relationships, can really lead to a lack of depth.
Okay.
You know, we become so focused on seeking the next, you know, best thing,
the next best thing,
that initial spark of excitement, that we miss out on the deeper, more fulfilling aspects of connection.
Yeah, it's like, you know, instead of investing the time and effort to nurture, like, a lasting bond, it's, you know, you're swiping left and right on dating apps.
Right, exactly.
You know, looking for the next quick fix. It really makes you wonder, are we sacrificing the depth of our relationships just for the sake of having more of them?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
You know, building truly meaningful connections, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes vulnerability, and it takes a willingness to go beyond, you know, just those surface level interactions. And, you know, every relationship we have, even a brief one, leaves its mark on us and shapes who we are.
Yeah.
So if we're always, you know, jumping from one person to the next, always chasing that that initial thrill, we miss out on the growth and the fulfillment that comes from deeper connection.
And it's not just about romantic relationships either, right?
Not at all.
It's about our connections with our friends, our families, even our communities. Yeah. Like, if we're applying that need it now mentality to everything, it just seems like genuine connection suffers across the board.
Exactly. Yeah. This drive for instant gratification, it can really impact all areas of our lives, making it harder to build and maintain those strong, supportive relationships that we all need to thrive.
We need them. Yeah.
And without them, we risk feeling, isolated and ultimately unfulfilled, even if we have all the pleasurable things that we thought we wanted.
So we've got this potential for addiction to pleasure on the one hand, and then this potential weakening of genuine connection on the other. But the article, it doesn't stop there. It also brings up, the impact of this lifestyle on our values, especially when it comes to materialism. I'm really curious to hear, what your thoughts are on this aspect.
Well, it's really important to connect this back to the bigger picture. Yeah. We see that this constant chasing after pleasure often goes hand in hand with an obsession with material possessions.
Right.
And social media plays a huge role here. It's constantly, feeding us these carefully curated images of luxury and abundance, making us believe that happiness is all about what we own, how we look, and the experiences that we can afford.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, keeping up with the Joneses,
right?
But like on a global scale,
exactly.
Right? Because of social media, and it's not even just about having nice things.
Right.
It's about needing more and feeling like what you have is never ever enough.
Yeah.
And it just seems like that feeling can never really be satisfied.
Yeah.
Even if you keep getting more stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Materialism thrives on this feeling of lack. We're constantly told that we need the newest phone, the most stylish clothes, the
most exotic vacation.
The most exotic vacations to be happy, but that satisfaction, it never lasts.
Right.
Yeah. As soon as we get that thing that we thought we wanted, we're already looking at the next thing. It's a never-ending cycle.
It's like being on a hamster wheel,
Yeah.
You're running and running, but you're not actually getting anywhere. I'm thinking about that case study of Sarah in the article.
Right.
She's a 25-year-old influencer, and she dropped out of college to chase the social media dream. And from the outside, she has it all. She has the followers, the designer clothes, the luxury travel, but she's deeply unhappy.
Right. Sarah's story is a powerful example of the emptiness that can come from prioritizing external validation and material wealth over developing a sense of purpose or genuine connection. It highlights the danger of getting caught up in this cycle of wanting more and more without stopping to ask what truly matters.
It really drives home the point that lasting fulfillment doesn't come from stuff. It comes from something much, much deeper. So we've talked about, the psychological impact of this pleasure-driven lifestyle, the risks to genuine connection, the trap of materialism.
Right.
But the article takes it like a step further.
Right.
And it starts looking at the potential consequences for society as a whole. Like, if this trend continues, where could we be headed? What do you think?
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
And potentially concerning.
Okay.
There are a number of scenarios that the article outlines.
Okay.
But let's focus on two key areas.
Okay.
One is the potential decline of family and community, and the second is the economic and demographic consequences that could result.
Okay, so starting with family and community, how could a society that kind of puts individual pleasure above everything else, how could that impact these really essential structures?
Well, imagine a world where personal fulfillment and instant gratification are seen as the ultimate goals, commitment and sacrifice, which are the very foundations of strong families and communities, might start to be seen as burdens rather than valuable contributions.
So you're saying that people might be less inclined to get married, have kids, or even just, invest time in their local communities.
Exactly. The article suggests that a society that's hyper-focused on pleasure could see fewer stable relationships and a growing reluctance to have children.
Right, and that leads directly to the second area of concern then. Because fewer children obviously leads to a smaller, older population. What kind of, impact could that have on the economy and demographics?
That's the second point that the article raises.
Yeah.
An aging population combined with a declining birth rate creates a whole host of challenges. Labor shortages, strain on social services, and the potential for economic stagnation.
Right.
And the article actually highlights this by referencing a case study of a European town that's already facing these exact issues because of these trends.
Wow. So it's not just a hypothetical problem. It's already happening in some places.
It is.
That's pretty eye-opening.
It is. And it underscores the importance of understanding the potential long-term consequences of our choices, both individually and as a society.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the potentially addictive nature of instant gratification, the risks to forming genuine connections, the pitfalls of materialism, and now these potential societal and economic consequences.
Yeah,
it's a lot to kind of take in, but I really appreciate that the article doesn't just leave us with a doom and gloom outlook. It also talks about the search for meaning in a world that can feel so obsessed with fleeting pleasures. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is where we kind of shift from a sociological perspective to a more philosophical and spiritual one.
Okay.
If we're constantly chasing pleasure and material wealth, we're avoiding a really, really crucial question. What gives our lives purpose and meaning?
That's so true. It makes you think if we're always focused on what feels good right now, are we missing out on what really matters in the long run?
That's exactly the risk. The article argues that this constant pursuit of external gratification can create a kind of spiritual emptiness. We might achieve a lot, have all sorts of possessions and experiences, but still feel profoundly unfulfilled.
It feels like it's about going beyond the superficial things to find a deeper sense of purpose, something that connects us to something bigger than ourselves, right?
Precisely. The article suggests that finding that deeper meaning often requires us to look beyond the immediate and embrace values that transcend the temporary nature of pleasure. It's about cultivating a life rich in meaning, connection, and contribution.
I love that. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure or rejecting material things completely. It's about finding a balance, a deeper sense of purpose that goes beyond those things. And this brings us to a really important question for our listeners. Where do you find meaning and purpose in your own life? What are the things that give you that deep, lasting sense of fulfillment? Take a moment to really think about that.
That's a question worth pondering, especially in a world that's always, trying to grab our attention and get us to chase, the next shiny object. Taking the time to reflect on what truly matters is more important now than ever, I think.
Absolutely. We're gonna pause here for a moment, and when we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into this topic and explore some potential solutions and strategies for cultivating a more balanced and fulfilling life, even in a world that often pulls us in other directions. So stay with us.
Sounds good. So before the break, we were talking about that feeling of spiritual emptiness.
Right.
In a society that often puts pleasure and material wealth above well, pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
It's a weighty topic.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's one that we need to kind of grapple with.
I agree. And I know it's easy to feel kind of overwhelmed by all this.
Right.
And maybe even wonder like, oh, okay, well, what can I actually do about it?
Yeah.
But the good news is the article doesn't just leave us hanging.
It doesn't.
It offers some really insightful perspectives on how we can actually navigate these challenges and cultivate a more meaningful life.
Okay. I love that.
So what are like some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, one of the most important ones for me is the power of simply being aware.
Okay.
Recognizing those, potential downsides
Right.
of this constant pursuit of pleasure is that first step towards actually making more intentional choices.
That makes sense. So it's about understanding how things like social media can really manipulate our desires and create that sense of dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Not that we need to demonize social media or anything,
Right.
but we can definitely be more mindful about how we're using it.
Exactly. Yeah. We have the power to choose to engage with content that inspires us,
Right.
that connects us with others in meaningful ways and that aligns with our values.
Right.
And we can also set boundaries,
Okay.
limiting our screen time, being more intentional about how we spend our time and energy.
So it's about kind of like taking back control.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of letting the algorithms
Yes.
dictate what we see and how we feel.
That's right.
We can actively curate our online experiences to be more positive and fulfilling.
Exactly. And this awareness can go beyond social media too,
Mm-hmm.
Paying attention to our habits and patterns in other areas of life.
Yeah.
Noticing when we're, kind of falling into that trap of instant gratification.
Right.
Can help us make, more conscious choices.
Right.
Overall.
So let's say, you notice that you're constantly like refreshing your social media feeds.
Okay.
Or, online shopping when you're feeling stressed or bored.
Right.
Like what are some healthier ways to deal with those feelings?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The article suggests exploring alternative activities that provide a deeper sense of fulfillment and genuine connection. Things like spending time in nature, pursuing creative hobbies,
right.
getting involved in your community, or even simply connecting with loved ones face to face.
Right. It's about finding activities that actually nourish us.
Yes.
Not just distract us from what we're feeling.
Exactly.
And speaking of connection, we talked earlier about how that pursuit of instant gratification can sometimes lead to some pretty superficial relationships. So how do we go about building relationships that are deeper and more meaningful?
I think it starts with simply being present and engage in our interactions.
Yeah.
Putting down our phones.
Yeah.
Truly listening to what the other person is saying, and being willing to share our authentic selves.
So it's about like quality over quantity.
Right.
Nurturing those few close relationships rather than, trying to maintain a huge network of superficial connections.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about materialism? We talked about how that constant drive for more can leave us feeling empty and dissatisfied.
It can.
So how do we break free from that cycle?
Well, the article suggests shifting our focus from acquiring things to cultivating experiences and qualities that truly enrich our lives.
Okay, like what?
Things like gratitude, compassion, generosity, and a sense of purpose.
So it's not about like, denying ourselves nice things or living a life of deprivation.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true happiness isn't, going to be found in a shopping bag.
You got it. It's about, finding joy in the simple thing.
Right.
Appreciating what we already have and contributing to something larger than ourselves. And that leads us to another really important aspect of creating a meaningful life.
Yeah.
And that is the pursuit of purpose.
Yeah, and this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Like, how do we even go about finding our purpose? It feels like such a big, daunting question.
It can feel that way, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. The article points out that purpose often comes from a combination of our passions, our values,
Okay.
and our unique skills and talents.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we can, make a meaningful contribution to the world,
Right.
while also feeling personally fulfilled.
So it's not necessarily about, finding like one grand purpose that defines our entire lives. It's about making choices that align with our values and have a positive impact, whether big or small.
Exactly. And that impact can be whatever we choose it to be. It could be volunteering our time, mentoring a young person, starting a business that reflects our values, or simply being a kind and supportive friend or family member.
Right. It's about recognizing that we all have something unique to offer, and that even seemingly small acts of kindness and contribution can make a real difference.
They can.
This brings up another important point that I think the article touches on, and that's the power of spirituality.
Yes. This is something that often gets overlooked.
Okay.
In our modern world.
Yeah.
But the article makes a really strong case for the importance of cultivating a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
And I think the word like spirituality can be a little confusing for some people. So what does it really mean in this context?
Spirituality means different things to different people, but at its core, it's about recognizing that we're part of something larger than ourselves, something interconnected and meaningful. It could be a connection to nature, a belief in a higher power, or simply a sense of awe and wonder, the mystery of life.
So it's not necessarily about organized religion. It's about finding that sense of connection and meaning that goes beyond our individual lives.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the article suggests that having some sort of spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, or simply engaging in acts of kindness and compassion, can really help us tap into that deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment.
It's like nourishing our souls.
You're right.
Like just like we need to nourish our bodies with healthy food and exercise. Right. We need to nourish our spirits with practices that connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
That's beautifully put. And by cultivating this inner sense of purpose and connection, we can become more resilient, more compassionate, and more equipped to navigate the inevitable challenges of life.
So we've talked about the importance of awareness, the power of connection, the shift from material possessions to meaningful experiences. Yes. The search for purpose and the cultivation of spirituality. It's a lot to take in, but it feels hopeful.
It does.
Like there's a path forward, even in a world that often feels so fixated on instant gratification and superficiality.
Yeah, there is definitely hope, and it starts with each of us making conscious choices, both individually and collectively.
And it's about recognizing that we're not alone in this journey.
No, not at all.
Right.
We can support each other, share our experiences, and work together to create a more fulfilling and balanced way of life.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. We'll be back in a moment to explore some additional insights from the article. So stay tuned. We've been talking a lot about, individual strategies for creating a more meaningful life. But I'm also thinking about how all of this, plays out on a larger scale. Is it even possible to create a society that actually supports those deeper values of connection and purpose and genuine fulfillment?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
The article touches on this idea that we need a real cultural shift, moving away from this kind of limited definition of success that's all about money and status and fleeting pleasures.
It makes you think about all that pressure to be successful. the fancy job, the big house, the perfect Instagram feed.
Right, exactly.
It just seems like that kind of thinking creates a lot of like unhealthy competition and comparison.
Yeah, it's like, everyone's trying to climb the same ladder,
right?
Even if it's not the right ladder for them,
right?
And it fosters this sense of scarcity, like there's not enough success or happiness to go around,
right?
But the article proposes that true abundance comes from recognizing our interconnectedness.
Okay.
Realizing that we each have something unique and valuable to offer.
So instead of like everyone fighting for a bigger piece of the pie,
right?
It's about working together to bake a bigger pie.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It speaks to the idea that our individual contributions, no matter how small they may seem, can create a ripple effect of positive change.
And that brings us to another important point I think the article raises, and that's the role of education in all of this.
Yeah, because if we're talking about changing the way, an entire society thinks,
right,
education has to be a part of that.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what does that look like? Like how do we make that happen?
Well, the article argues that we need to be teaching young people.
Okay.
Not just how to, achieve those traditional markers of success, like getting good grades.
Right, getting the job.
Getting the job.
Yeah.
But also how to live, meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Right.
It's about helping them, develop the skills they need to thrive on a deeper level.
So instead of just focusing on grades and test scores,
right,
it's about helping young people cultivate like critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence, a strong sense of social responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about guiding them to develop a strong sense of self, a clear understanding of their values,
right,
and the tools they need to navigate, the complexities.
Yeah, the world is complex.
Of our world.
Yeah.
And it's about creating environments where young people feel supported and valued and inspired to make a positive difference.
And this goes beyond just, what happens in schools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's about parents, mentors, community leaders, like everyone.
It takes a village, as they say.
Yeah.
We all share a responsibility
to
create a world where young people feel empowered to create lives that are both successful and truly meaningful.
So we've talked about, individual choices, societal shifts.
The importance of education, but the article goes even further.
It does.
And it starts discussing this need for systemic change.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, systemic change is essential because it addresses the root causes of these issues.
Yeah.
For example, the article suggests that we need to take a hard look at our economic systems.
Okay.
Which often prioritize, profit over people and the planet.
Right, because if the system is designed to reward greed and exploitation, it's going to be really hard for individuals to make ethical and sustainable choices, even if that's what they want,
Exactly. We need to, create systems that incentivize businesses to operate in a way that benefits all stakeholders, not just shareholders. We need to invest in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and other initiatives that support a healthy planet for future generations.
So it's about making sustainability and well-being like an integral part of the way we do business.
Yes.
And govern ourselves, not just something that we talk about.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this requires us to be bold, to think outside the box, and to collaborate on a global scale.
Right.
To create a more just and equitable world.
Yeah.
For everyone.
This has been a pretty intense deep dive.
It has.
From the psychology of instant gratification to the need for large scale systemic change. It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But it also feels kind of empowering to have this deeper understanding of the challenges and the possibilities.
I agree. And while the challenges are definitely significant,
Right.
I believe we have reason to be hopeful. We have the knowledge, the resources, and I truly believe the collective will to create a better future.
I love that. It starts with, each of us making conscious choices in our own lives.
Yes.
But it also requires us to work together to create a world that supports a more balanced and fulfilling way of life for everyone.
And remember, even small acts of kindness, compassion, and conscious consumerism can make a difference.
Right.
Each choice we make is a vote for the kind of world we want to create.
That's a really powerful thought to end on.
Yeah.
We encourage you to, keep exploring these ideas.
Yes.
Talk to your friends and family, get involved in your community, and most importantly, live in a way that aligns with your values. Every step we take towards a more conscious and meaningful life ripples outward and contributes to a better world.
It does. Huh? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep striving to make a positive difference.
That's a wrap on the deep dive. Thanks for listening.